If you've just joined us, I'm talking to Dr. Chris Strickland, who leads a team conducting whale surveys in the North Atlantic. So, Chris, if I could just recap, what do these whale surveys actually entail? I mean, how are they carried out?
Well, Malcolm, as I've said, it's really rather straightforward. My team and I, we take our ship out into the ocean looking for whales, and then when we see any, if we see any, we count them.
That's interesting. You say if you see any, but surely the whales you're attempting to count, they are very big, aren't they?
Oh, they are. They are very big. Some of them are amongst the biggest creatures. Well, indeed, some of them are the biggest creatures in the world.
But then, forgive me, but that would seem to make the task of finding some to count that much...
Yes, but then, of course, you must remember that while the whales are certainly big, the sea is even bigger. I mean, it's really big, incomparably bigger than even the biggest of the whales. Well, not incomparably, one can compare them, but the upshot of such a comparison would be that the sea is way, way bigger. Not only that, but there are several of these large seas all over the world, and as they're all connected, the whales have full access to all of them. So suddenly the whole task of counting them becomes much harder than it would be if the whales were in, say, Sheffield.
Yes, I see. Now you explain it in those terms, I do see.
Also, that the whales can, and do, go underwater, which we, in our whale counting ship, try to avoid doing. And then, of course, there's the issue of when we see a whale, can we be sure it's, so to speak, a new whale? Or just one we've counted before again?
But when you do find some, the counting itself, how does that...
Well, really, in exactly the way you're probably imagining. The pretty standard numerical system you or your listeners probably use every day.
Oh, really? So it's actually not so very different from if I were, say, to count the cars in my street or the number of, let's say, oranges on a plate?
No different at all, no. We see a whale and we quite simply count it. One, obviously, if it's the first one, or otherwise we add to the count, the pre-existing count, which then goes up by one. Two, for instance, 2. Or 8, or 27, or anything really, and then you know how many there are.
I see. Well, at this point, Chris, I really begin to feel that I must surely have asked you every question about the counting of whales that it's possible to imagine.
Yes, I have to say, I do agree with you there. I'm not sure what more the BBC expect to get out of us on the subject of counting whales, that we didn't cover in the first, well, certainly in the first 2 hours.
Quite. And yet, of course, the fact remains that the BBC, for reasons I frankly fail to understand, have locked the two of us in this room with no food or water and forced us to talk about counting whales for, what is it? It must be
4, I think it's 4 days now.
4 days. And my producer, or at any rate the voice that's replaced him, remains emphatic that whales and the counting of same are the only subjects on which he is prepared to hear from us, and certainly not wanting to see the reappearance of the electrified punishment spikes that was so much a feature of the third night. I'm inclined to carry on asking you, on average, how many whales...
Yes, and I have been with you so far, Malcolm, but now I must confess, I am beginning to think that compared to continuing the whale discussion for really any more time at all, death has substantially lost its sting. And indeed, rather than wait for the spikes, I may take it upon myself to kill at least one of us with this microphone stand.
Well, Chris, I can certainly sympathise with that impulse.
Thank you. Do you have a particular preference about which of us I kill?
If you'd asked me yesterday, I think I would have done. But now, so long as the discussion about counting whales ends, I really don't mind.